Do it.
Here we go. Recorded.
Hi, I'm Rainbow Llamacorn. This is the Scream Queen. We are Damnation Vault, and we are here with Andy Ham of Melted Bodies.
Hello,
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Wait, I want to know, you got to introduce who are all these little guys and girls and characters behind you?
These are Squishmallows.
What are they?
They're little Squishmallows. They're little stuffed animals.
Squishmallows?
Yeah, Squishmallow.
That's not a marshmallow. That's an avocado.
Right.
Squishcado? Squishcado? A squishako? A squishcado?
Anyway, out and show like all of them.
Well, they're not all out here now, but I've got quite a few.
Rainbow. You need to do these interviews like lounged out on your mellow
Right.
Squishmallows or whatever.
So we have an audience.
Right.
Yeah, there you go. I love the picture, the like image of like all these squishmallows like up at a screen watching. Like, I know that. That's Squishcado.
So how did you guys get the name Melted Bodies? I don't know if I've heard about that.
How did we get the name Melted Bodies has actually been around for even longer than the band, because I was doing a solo project. I've done a lot of stuff, but I was doing a solo project at the time, and then I actually wanted to call the solo project Melted Bodies, and my girlfriend at the time was like, it's just you, it should be like your name, you know, or, you know, a pseudonym for yourself, not a group sounding thing. So I ended up doing like a clothing line, like a t-shirt line. I do like graphic design, and I called that Melted Bodies, which very much led me into that was one element of a number of things that led me into writing songs that became Melted Bodies. So then when we got the band together, I was like, well, I wanted to call it Melted Bodies, but we can all talk about a new name. And everybody was like, no, that's the name. Like, it's done. So it just stuck. Yeah, it wasn't. It was an easy one. That's usually such a hard thing for bands, and that was one of the easiest parts for us.
Right. When did you form? Did you form with like friends that you grew up with, or did you meet some musicians?
It's been a bit now. It's just been a slow grind. As with, I feel like anytime you run into artists and bands, like, you're like, where'd they come from? Or like, I just heard their album last year. They've usually been around for a while. So
right.
I had written like just 2 or 3 demo songs in like 2015, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just doing them for fun. And then I ran into Scott, who's our drummer, just at like, I think we were like watching like a movie in the cemetery. Do you guys ever do that where they like project, you know, onto like a giant screen and like cool locations, and like, anyways, they do a lot of that in LA because it never, you know, we have like good weather year round. So yeah, I just mentioned that I was like, oh, I'm sort of doing this new thing. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's, you know, it's sort of like, you know, I really liked like Cannibal Corpse and like a lot of 90s death metal growing up. And then I also loved, as I grew up and got more into songwriting, like a lot of like the post-punk and new wave, a lot of like Ecstasy and Talking Heads and Gang of Four. And so I was like, oh, what if I combine those two? You know, and I can't think of another, you know, sort of aggressive metal band that's done that. So that was sort of the initial concept. It's like grown into something else. But yeah, I showed him the 2 demos, and then he was like, dude, I used to like drum in like screamo and hardcore bands. Like, I can totally play this, and I know a lot of the bands that you love. And then yeah, it just sort of grew from there. Ben, who plays keyboards and does all our like programming electronics, was just sort of in the same circles, and he still is doing a solo project called Diamondstein that's more electronic music. But so he was a perfect fit because he's a big metalhead behind that. And then Hoda, who's our bass player, I'd known for years just through mutual friends, but she was always a guitar player in punk bands. And I was like, yo, we're looking for a bass player. She's like, I just got this Rickenbacker, like, it's my, you know, like, I never really have played bass, but I'm gonna learn. But she already ripped on guitar, so it was a pretty easy transition. So yeah, she like quote unquote tried out, but we were like, oh yeah, like you're good, like let's do it. We all like
that's awesome.
So yeah, with all the insanity that goes into forming a band, which I've been in many, and I'm sure you guys either also been in bands, I'm guessing, or you've interviewed obviously a ton. It's such a difficult thing to get personalities together that work, that want to put the time in, especially doing, a little more avant-garde, type of music where it's not like, oh, I immediately get this, or this is super easy to do. So very, very lucky that, we're able to do what we do and everybody's happy doing it.
Right. So is Enjoy Yourself, was that your very first album then? Like your very first full album?
Yeah, Enjoy Yourself was the first one. We pretty much did all that completely DIY. We did have a guy, John Spiker, who helped with mixing, which is huge for us because we recorded everything like just in our little lockout, which looking back, I don't know how, like I was in there for weeks on end. It's just like this prison box in this horrible part of town in LA. Like, they're in and out. I sort of was the pseudo producer, so I'd be in there with everybody, like recording their parts, and then of course when it was done, the pandemic hit. So we were like, okay, I guess we're just gonna release it during the pandemic. And a lot of the songs we'd had for a number of years, and it all came to a head, which I think worked to our advantage, because so many of the things started to become such real topics that a lot of people were finally starting to be a little more open to talking about. And, we obviously had them on our minds for a while because we had those songs written. So it worked to our favor that we ended up getting, with very little, we didn't tour behind that. We don't have any backing, we don't have management, we don't have a label, no publishing, nothing like that we still got like a good amount of coverage on it and a good amount of attention. So yeah, something clicked with that, with certain people, it's still a small pocket of people, which is, that's sort of what Enjoy Yourself was for. And yeah, we were really happy with it.
Well, it's an amazing album.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
You guys covered the Walkman song, The Rat. What was the inspiration for covering that song?
So I did indie, like more like indie rock and indie bands for a long time. And I always loved that album by the Walkmen. I always loved the Walkmen when they were coming up. Oh, I'm sorry. You and I is the album that I loved, and The Rat is actually from the album previous, but they just always had like a cool style, and I wanted to do a cover that was a little unexpected. And yeah, I just remember I used to like flip out on the drums for The Rat, like I would see them at a festival, and then I was like, dude, I could turn this into like a thrash thing, like that chord progression in the middle, and then I'm going to do this weird thing for the bridge. So I wrote it out, and it turned out I was really happy with it, and everybody else jumped on board. And then we had to get, anytime anybody can do a cover in music, but you're still supposed to get a mechanical license, on the publishing, because we didn't write that song. So through that, I was able to contact their publisher, and then through the publisher, I was able to contact the guitar player, who I think pretty sure was the main songwriter on that. So I was super excited. I was like, hey man, and he's like, dude, I did not expect this. And he said a huge compliment. He was like, right when you started singing, you actually reminded me of Hamilton. And I was like, shut up. And he was like, yeah, man, like you like hit those opening notes really well. So I was like a little fanboy, which I don't really get like too much. So yeah, I'm glad you know that song. A lot of people in this world like don't know it unless you listen to a lot of stuff outside of heavy music.
Right.
I think some of your
go ahead.
Yeah, some of your videos, like the one for Ad People, that one is hilarious. Like what also was the inspiration behind doing that, like playing the music and then stopping and doing like an ad and stuff like that? It's genius. It's such a like sarcasm on society.
Yeah, we had, because the song is Ad People. A number of us, you know, for our day jobs, work in advertising, so we have a very, you know, it's a love hate at times. You know, I don't think anybody enjoys advertising. You know, it's interrupting something that you wanted to pay attention to. So when we had that song, I was like, let's just do a music video that's just, you know, really is a sort of an exploitation film on advertising. So, you know, let's not focus on the music. Let's focus on, you know, pushing random stuff, you know, and seeing how long we can keep people's attention. And yeah, and then we just, same thing. We just had, I think Ben was working on a play series. Like, we have a small studio in the back, you know, because we didn't really have any money or anything. And then we just sort of came up with these fake ads, you know, and just played dress up and did it. And yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's not a music video, it's more so it's you know, a simple art film, a sort of experiment, you know, which is hopefully very frustrating. That was the whole point. Is that, like, we want viewers to get frustrated when we watch this, because it is what is going on, you know, where everybody's fiending for our attention. That's where all the, you know, the only way that a lot of these companies are, you know, surviving is, you know, how much attention can they get when you're on your phone or when you're, you know, on your laptop. So yeah,
Right.
that happened, same thing, really fun, and we were really happy with how that turned out.
Yeah, it's such an awesome video. You have an EP coming out on November 25th called The Inevitable Fork Volume 1. First of all, let's talk about the album cover, because it shows a lot of texture. Like,
Which one? Oh, the one with the, like, the
with the
mouth
tongue
really
and
close?
the
Yeah,
hair hitting it?
yeah. That is, I do all the artwork. So that one is, I've always sort of had, I don't know what it is, some kind of obsession or fascination or kink with mouths and teeth. And it's always been sort of woven throughout the band. And then, of course, to me, like, things that I think a lot of people think are, that maybe first sight they're like, oh, it's gross, or, you know, it's very I'm trying to think, like, sort of visceral, I think is very beautiful. So I love, you know, a pile of trash has so many colors in it, you know, like a lot, like flesh, and, you know, it just has a natural, like you said, it's almost like you can sort of feel it when you see it. So yeah, I made that with, I bought, like, I had more stuff coming out. I bought like 300 old used dentures that I, like, found, I think, on, like, eBay. And then I got some honey, and then I did that, like, neon green backdrop, and then I bought, like, a fake tongue, a realistic, like, silicone fake tongue, and then I threaded those hairs. I sort of, like, gave it like a, you know, like a little wig. So that's what those sprouts are. Because I liked the idea of, like, if we had something about a hairy tongue, like, you know, putting hair in your mouth. I don't know why it, like, sort of gives me a feeling, even though
Yeah,
it
yeah.
happens all the time. But I was like, oh, like, hairy. I love the idea of a hairy tongue. Like, what if we all had hairy tongues, where it's just always like I was imagining, like, chewing food with a hairy tongue. So yeah, and I put that together, and then so did, like, a bunch of a photo shoot, and I wanted that, yeah, to be more about, like, the texture and stuff than an actual you know, portraying, like, a specific message or something.
Yeah. Now you do have the first single off of it, which that is the fourth track, Therapy. And
Yeah.
now that one definitely has a message, because I read that, like, it's more about, like, like, our world being so obsessed with money that basically you have to pay to talk to somebody about your mental health issues and stuff, because nobody else is going to listen right now, because they're all busy, like, trying to make money. So is there,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
What exactly triggered you to write that? Like, what was the experience that happened where you just like, okay, I need to write this and get this out, get this message out?
Well, I think, I've been in and out of therapy for a very long time. And, I've always, for me personally, I've always fought with, it's simultaneously very helpful. I think talking to anybody and being able to vent about things that are, very personal, or things that are bothering you, or things that are making you angry, there's never anything really bad that comes of that. It's just nice when somebody can actually listen, while simultaneously it's always been very depressing to me, the thought that the only way that I can get that, and that many of us can get that, is that we have to pay for it. And that sort of takes away a level of, I don't know, a level of genuine there, because you want to feel like that you have people in your life that want to listen to you and that want to be there for you and want to try to help, or just listen, just to have you be able to vent. And so when you're paying for it, there's sort of that, like, well, you have to listen to me, like, this is a service. So it's a double-edged sword. And I think that more and more of us, being more isolated, and also just being more self-aware of, like, how fucked up we are, not only as humans, but how fucked up, everything is in the world to certain degrees now, and just how much loneliness and depression and anxiety there is out there. And more people are open to the idea of therapy and, trying it out. But there's so many of us too, where it's, at times I was paying so much money. You get what you pay for, and it just takes a shit ton of money. Like, insurance does nothing. Like, you could still get some therapists with insurance, but it's hit or miss. So I was paying out of pocket for a while, and then I, like, just couldn't afford it anymore, and so that was depressing, because it was like, oh, that's the only way. So I think I just wanted to write a song about it. It was, I can't say anything bad ever came from going to therapists and being able to talk about things, but I also have always fought with that. It's just becoming more and more now that, yeah, unless you pay for it, you won't get anything. That you can't get someone's attention unless you're giving them something for it. And I don't know, that's a very, even thinking about now, it's just a sad thought, which isn't truth across everything. I have great people in my life, and I know a lot of us do, but we all know how it is. I'm sure you guys have had those down days, or those things happen in your life where you sort of just want to be open about it and have somebody listen, and it's hard to find that.
It definitely can be. And I mean, like, mental health is such a huge issue going on. And like with your music, like with the ad people, I mean, that shit propels it. And like all the stuff online that you see, like people just, they want to post their memes and their mean comments and stuff. And it's so easy for somebody to say, oh, don't let it get to you, but fuck, we're only human. And it gets hard when you do, yeah, I want to talk to somebody about it. It's like a friend, not saying you, Angie, because you're always there.
No, I know. No, I know. I know what you mean.
Yeah, let the therapy session begin.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. You'll want to talk to someone, and then they'll just tell you, you'll get over it, it'll be okay, instead of, like, listening. It's just...
Oh, don't even get me
I get
going
it.
on that. Don't get me going on that. Yeah. Just stay positive, man. It'll be fine.
Oh God,
like,
I hate that.
What the fuck does that even mean? Like, do you have any idea? Have you ever had anything difficult happen in your life?
Maybe you're the problem. Maybe you're the negative one. I was like, holy fuck, I'm just trying to
Yeah, exactly.
fucking decipher this world the way that it is.
Yeah, that's
this world.
It's a big chip on my shoulder, is that thing, but which seems like we're heading away from. I think now that we know that the world is dying, and that I think people are realizing that, like, positive attitudes and good intentions, and you know, glazing everything over with like, oh, just like think positively about it and it'll get better, is everybody's figuring out is bullshit, you know. And that it's like, oh, you have to actually take action, you have to actually listen, you have to actually be empathetic, you have to have an opinion, you know. Where I think still rampant, but is getting better forever, it was, like you said, sort of, you know, ignore the problem. Ignorance is bliss. You know, what I always say is like, you know, I used to get that advice a lot of like, oh, if someone, you know, just kill him with kindness. And then I'm like, it's killing him with kindness is still killing him. It's just lying. Like, why not, if you disagree with somebody, tell them you disagree, but, you know, talk to them about it, you know, be open about it, rather than, it's just a Western society of everybody like stuffing their feelings down, being like, no, it's just staying positive. So yeah, don't get me going. I could go off on that forever. That's always been a thing for me.
And you have a single coming out in on Friday, which I'm not sure if we can type the article out in that record time, but Liars is coming out. What is the main message behind that song? And why did you decide to do it as your second single?
Liars actually ties in good to what we were just talking about, and that's more of just a general message that most of us are lying, you know, for exactly what you said. You know, if Rainbow and I run into each other at a show, you know, and Rainbow's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I'm great, how are you? And she's like, I'm doing awesome. And then you both walk away and I'm like, dude, I had a shit day. Like, my boss yelled at me for something, and Rainbow's like, oh, you know, my dog is sick and I'm really worried about it, but I don't want to bring anybody down. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what the verses are pretty self-explanatory of just sort of my day-to-day, you know, stresses and sort of, you know, fighting self-hatred and fighting anxiety. And then the chorus is, yeah, just, I said that everything was all right, that's a lie. I said that it would be okay, that's a lie. And then that pre-chorus is, you know, I think so many of us do that for so long that instead of telling the truth, you know, we sort of decide to all wait in line to self-implode, which is that we, you know, we say we're fine so many times that it bubbles up. And then, you know, we either end up like drinking too much or getting in a fight with our significant other, and all this like pent up horrible aggression comes out, you know. And I just, in my mind, I picture this like never ending line of all of us just sort of waiting at the door to self-implode, you know, instead of just being able to go out there and talk about things. So yeah, did that explain it?
Yeah, definitely. And like, I have to mention, you have the Club Anxious 2-hour guided meditation. You can just listen to that and all your worries. I don't know even how to explain it. It's so awesome yet so dark.
And that was sort of stemming off of the ad people video, where, you know, we wanted to do something, yeah, that wasn't just a music video, not only because we don't have the budget for it, but also because it's a different way of sort of getting somebody to pay attention. So yeah, we did a guided meditation, and then we thought of it more as like a lyrical video and an excuse to do another painstaking thing, that if you can get through it, great, and if not, we're fine with that too.
Yeah, I was listening to it, especially like at the beginning. It's like it sounds exactly like a guided meditation, but it takes you into a dark place.
Yeah.
Like with the
I need to
roof
do that
growing
again.
out and strangling you.
Yeah, I need to do that one again. I actually forgot about that video until you just said it. I was like, I need to do that. My girlfriend's mom is coming into town, so I'll have to like, I'm gonna be like, hey, do you guys want to do a meditation together? It's long, but it'll be worth it.
Yeah, yeah, and also the acid drop Halloween video. That one, that one was trippy too.
Oh, we gotta post that because it's the season. Yeah, we did like a, what was that for? We did like a Halloween thing last year, or no, maybe that was the year before, to help promote. And I'm a big like horror fan in general, and yeah, so it's that, you know, it's a it's obviously, which has been done a number of times, but a sort of take on Halloween 3 with the mask, you know, like turning in the black. And then we had a whole thing, we called it MBTV, and it was like a, what was the stream? I forget where we streamed it. We put together, like, we did all our music videos, we did some other like unique stuff, and that was one element of it that was sort of the intro to it. I don't know if we have that full link anywhere because it was a live stream, but yeah, that was fun. That was a really fun one to make. I need to bring that back up. I forgot about these. Feels like forever ago. It wasn't that long ago.
It's trippy. It's another awesome one. Like, there is not another band out there like you. I have not like experienced that when like researching, going guided meditation, Halloween, like acid drop Halloween. What?
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's like always been our, it's like our best and at times very difficult, being, you know, bluntly honest. It's, you know, it comes from a genuine place, which is what is most important, I think, in any kind of art form. It's genuinely like, you know, who we are, but we get that a lot simultaneously, where either people really connect with it and it clicks with them, and they sort of understand, you know, how dark all of most of the subject matter really is underneath it. But, you know, that layer of fun and sarcasm that we have, you know, painted across things, I think sometimes throws, especially in heavy metal. I think if, you know, when we're playing more of like the noise and hardcore stuff, I think people are more into it. Some of the metal stuff, it's been a little bit tougher for us because it's such which is my favorite. Like, I was such a big metalhead and still am, you know, like that's really more my core is. But it's become such a conservative genre in so many ways, you know, where I'm really blown away that, you know, people are like, oh, well, I don't really get what genre of metal is it, or I don't know, like I don't really get it, like why, you know, it doesn't really sound like this. And then I'm like, but isn't that like aggressive music and heavy metal was built on doing that, you know, like that was why we all got into it, because the first time we heard something that was so different and you know, so aggressive, no matter what the energy was, you know, it was sort of like, oh, this is a genre that sort of pushes people to be uncomfortable. And in a lot of ways, you know, especially when I look at like the big publications and sort of what's happening in the top tier of metal, you know, it's like, it's just feels very stagnant. It doesn't feel like a lot of, you know, bigger bands are still trying to push things. So I think that us, and I know a lot of other up and coming, I think, are like, you know, realizing that people don't just listen to one genre anymore. It's such an old school, like we all have you know, we all have Spotify and we all listen to so much different shit that, you know, I think people are, I was hoping would be much more open-minded to it. And luckily we've connected a lot with people who have, and then with other people that exactly are like, I don't know what it is, I like it, but like what is it? And then I'm like, does it fucking matter? Does it make you feel something? Yeah, like then just stop there and listen to it, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Well, those are all of my questions. I know they're like, it's gonna cut off in like 1.5 minutes. So we could keep going. We'll just have to restart it. Because I know, Angie, I know you had a couple more questions too.
Mostly was gonna ask about Space Zebra because that's where I discovered you guys.
Oh, nice. How Space Zebra was, oh, that's the Wes Borland, right?
Yeah, he was part of it. He's not anymore, but
Yeah.
he was.
Okay, yeah, Space Zebra. I don't remember. Somebody, I think, tipped us off to Space Zebra, and then we submitted, and Space Zebra, I don't know those. We don't know any of those guys personally, and but I do remember watching some of those, and they seemed to really, especially one of them, like really connected. I remember smiling a lot. He like really, I felt like he really like got what we were doing just by listening, you know, like, and that I loved that. And I know Wes was really into it when we watched one. And then I think, oh yeah, it was like a voting thing by the end. I don't remember. Yeah, but those guys, yeah, were really nice to us and really, you know, and that was just from like sort of I'm pretty sure just like a tip off of like, hey, here's our email, send it. And they were like, wow, this is amazing. Like, we'd love to get it out there. So it's that kind of stuff that I love. Like that really, especially for a show that